The silence in our bedroom is suffocating, but underneath it is the scent of the lavender laundry detergent Tom uses, the faint hum of the air conditioner he always sets to my preferred temperature, the weight of a life built on small, quiet considerations. Every creak of the bed frame is an accusation, but it's the frame of a bed we chose together. Tom's been sleeping in the guest room for 3 nights now, and I can hear him tossing and turning through the thin walls of our suburban Phoenix home. Every footstep to the bathroom at 3 a.m. is a reminder that I've destroyed something precious over files I didn't even remember existed. Last night I heard him crying. My husband, who didn't shed a tear when his father died, who stayed strong when I miscarried between Emma and Jacob, was sobbing in our guest room at 2 a.m. The sound broke something inside me that I don't think will ever heal. My name is Lauren. I'm 38 years old, married for 8 years to the kindest man I've ever known, mother to 2 beautiful children, and currently watching my marriage implode over sex tapes from a decade ago. Tapes I'd forgotten about. Tapes I should have deleted. Tapes that show a version of me my husband never knew existed. There are nights, after Tom and the kids are asleep, when I stare into the bathroom mirror and wonder who I've become. Was this tired, predictable woman always waiting inside me, even when Jace whispered promises I knew were lies? Did becoming a wife and mother erase that girl? Or did it just bury her deeper, hidden until Beth's drunken laughter excavated her from the depths of memory? The irony is bitter. I went on that girl's trip to Sedona to clear my head, to remember who I was outside of being a wife and mother. Instead, I've managed to remind my husband of exactly who I was before him, and now he can't look at me without seeing her. The other Lauren, the one who did those things on camera with a man who wasn't him. It started 3 weeks ago when my college roommate Beth invited me on a girls' weekend. 5 days in Sedona, spa treatments, wine tasting, hiking. Tom encouraged me to go. "You deserve a break," he'd said, kissing my forehead as he loaded my suitcase into the car. "God knows you've earned it with everything you do for this family." That's Tom. Always thinking of others, always putting my needs first. He works from home as a software developer, handles school pickups when I'm swamped at the dental office, never complains when dinner is takeout again because I'm too exhausted to cook. The perfect husband, the safe choice. And that's exactly why I can't forgive myself for what happened next. The trip itself was innocent enough. 5 women in their late 30s, escaping kids and responsibilities for a long weekend. We drank too much wine, stayed up too late gossiping, pretended we were 25 again. But something about being away from my daily routine, being just Lauren instead of Mom or Mrs. Patterson, stirred up feelings I thought I'd buried. On the first night, I'd had a dream about Jace. Nothing sexual, just him playing guitar on the balcony of our old apartment, the Phoenix sunset painting everything gold. I woke up disoriented, reaching for Tom before remembering I was in a hotel room in Sedona. The guilt was immediate and crushing, like I'd actually cheated instead of just having my subconscious betray me. "Remember when you dated that musician?" Beth asked on our second night, 3 margaritas deep. "What was his name, Jake?" "Jace," I corrected automatically, then wished I hadn't. The name felt strange on my tongue, like speaking a spell that might summon him. That was a lifetime ago. "God, you were so obsessed with him. Remember when you skipped finals week to follow his band on tour?" The other women laughed, demanding details. I deflected, changed the subject, but the damage was done. Memories I'd locked away came flooding back. Jace with his tattoos and his guitar, Jace who made me feel alive in ways I'd forgotten existed. Jace who controlled every aspect of my life until I finally found the strength to leave. I barely texted Tom during the trip. Not because I was doing anything wrong, but because thinking about Jace made me feel guilty, like I was emotionally cheating just by remembering. When Tom would text asking how things were going, I'd send back brief responses. "Having fun. Miss you too. Home Sunday." Each message felt like a lie, even though I wasn't doing anything except drinking wine and getting massages. But inside, I was 28 again, remembering what it felt like to be wanted so desperately that someone would video everything we did together, remembering what it felt like to be someone's obsession instead of someone's comfortable routine. When I got home Sunday evening, Tom had dinner waiting, my favorite Thai food from the place across town. The kids had made a welcome home mommy banner. Everything was perfect, and I felt like a fraud. "How was the trip?" Tom asked as we cleaned up after dinner. "Good, relaxing." I couldn't meet his eyes. "You seem tired. Early night?" "Yeah, I think so." That's the thing about Tom. He notices everything but never pushes. He saw something was off but gave me space to work through it. If he'd pressed, maybe I would have told him about the memories Beth had stirred up. Maybe we could have talked it through. Instead, I retreated into myself, and he let me. 3 days later, I came home from work to find Tom sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open in front of him. His face was gray, his hands shaking slightly. I knew immediately something was catastrophically wrong. "The kids?" I asked, panic rising. "They're at my mom's." His voice was flat, emotionless. "We need to talk." That's when I saw what was on the screen. My old email account, the one I'd had since college. And in a folder labeled junk, not thingy like Tom keeps saying, but junk, because that's what I'd thought those files were. 2 video attachments I hadn't thought about in a decade. My stomach dropped to the floor. The room spun. I could see the thumbnail of one video, grainy and dark, but unmistakably me, younger me, naked me, with someone who wasn't my husband. "Tom, I can explain." "Can you?" He looked up at me, and the pain in his eyes was devastating, but there was something else there too, disgust. "Can you explain why you kept sex tapes with your ex? Can you explain why I just watched my wife with another man? Why I had to hear you say things to him you've never said to me? Do things you told me you'd never done?" The last part hit like a physical blow, because I knew exactly what he meant. Things I'd told Tom I wasn't comfortable with, wasn't interested in. Things Jace had convinced me were necessary to keep him interested. My legs gave out. I sank into the chair across from him, my mind racing. How could I explain something I'd forgotten existed? How could I make him understand that those videos meant nothing, were nothing, just digital detritus from a relationship I'd tried to erase? "I forgot they were there," I said weakly. "Tom, I swear I haven't looked at them since when? Since we got married? Since last week? When?" "Since before I met you. I created that folder when Jace and I broke up. I dumped everything related to him in there and never looked at it again." "Bullshit." The profanity shocked me. Tom never swore. "You expect me to believe you just forgot about sex tapes? That you've had them this whole time and never once thought to delete them?" "Yes, because they meant nothing, because Jace meant nothing." "Then why keep them?" I didn't have an answer. The truth was too complicated, too painful. How could I explain that I'd kept them not because I wanted to watch them, but because deleting them felt like admitting that whole year of my life had happened? That I'd been that girl, done those things, let someone film me like that? "I need you to leave," Tom said quietly. "Just for tonight. I need to think." "Tom, please, let me explain about Jace, about why—" "I don't want to know about Jace. I don't want to know anything except why my wife kept videos of herself with another man." I spent that night at Beth's, sobbing into her couch while she tried to console me. But how could she understand? She'd never been with someone like Jace. Never been so consumed by someone that you'd do anything they asked, including things that scared you, things that made you feel powerful and powerless at the same time. I met Jace when I was 27, fresh out of a boring relationship with a boring accountant who'd wanted to marry me and move to the suburbs. Jace was everything Bradley wasn't. Dangerous, exciting, unpredictable. He was the lead guitarist in a band that played dive bars around Phoenix, had a sleeve of tattoos, and a smile that made smart girls do stupid things. "You're too beautiful to be hiding in the crowd," he'd said the night we met, pulling me onto the stage during their last song. "Dance with me." And I did. For a year, I danced to whatever tune he played. My life smelled of stale beer, his clove cigarettes, and the cheap vanilla perfume he liked. The soundtrack was his endless guitar riffs and the sound of my own faked enthusiasm. When he said jump, I asked how high. When he wanted to film us, I said yes, because refusing meant he might lose interest, might find another girl who would say yes. The videos started 3 months into our relationship. "I want to watch us when I'm on tour," he'd said, setting up his camera on the dresser. "Want to remember exactly how you look when you're mine." I should have said no. Every instinct screamed that this was a bad idea. But Jace had a way of making me feel like saying no meant I didn't really love him, didn't trust him, wasn't as cool and adventurous as he thought I was, so I said yes. To the first video, to the second, to things that made me uncomfortable but made him look at me like I was a goddess. The thing about men like Jace is they make you feel like you're the only woman in the world, until suddenly you're not. They consume you completely, then discard you when they're bored. But while it's happening, while you're in the thick of it, you feel more alive than you've ever felt. Tom is the opposite. Tom makes me feel safe, valued, respected. Tom would never ask me to do the things Jace did. Tom loves me for who I am, not who he can turn me into. And that's exactly why those videos are so damaging. They show Tom a version of me he never knew existed. A version I've spent 10 years trying to forget. When I came home the next day, Tom had questions. So many questions. "How long were you with him?" "About a year." "And he filmed you without your consent?" "No, I agreed to it." The look of betrayal on his face was worse than anger would have been. "So you made sex tapes with your ex-boyfriend and kept them through our entire relationship, through our marriage, through the birth of our children." "I forgot about them." How do you forget something like that, Lauren? How do you forget that there's video evidence of you with another man? Because I blocked it out. Because being with Jace was the worst mistake of my life, and when I finally got away from him, I tried to erase every trace of that year. I threw everything in that folder and never looked back. "But you didn't delete it." "No," I admitted. "I didn't." "Why?" The question hung between us like a blade. Why hadn't I deleted those files? The surface answer was simple. I'd forgotten about them. But deeper down, in places I didn't want to examine, I knew there was more to it. Some part of me had kept them as proof that I'd once been someone different. Someone who took risks, who lived dangerously, who was wanted so desperately that a man would want to capture every moment. "I need details," Tom said suddenly. "About him, about why you did those things." "Tom, please." "No, I've watched my wife perform for another man. I deserve to know why." So I told him. About how Jace would withdraw affection if I didn't comply. How he'd compare me to other girls, his exes, making me feel like I had to prove I was better, more adventurous, more willing. How the videos were his idea of love, wanting to own every part of me even when we weren't together. "I don't know," I said finally. "I honestly don't know." Tom moved back into our bedroom after a week, but things weren't the same. He was polite, cordial even, but the easy intimacy we'd shared was gone. When we made love, and we did because Tom was trying so hard to move past this, I could feel him holding back, could sense him wondering if I was comparing him to Jace, if I was making the same sounds, if what we had was special or just another performance. One night, he stopped in the middle and just stared at me. "What?" I asked, though I already knew. "Did you fake it with me, the way you didn't with him?" "Tom, no." "Because you seemed pretty enthusiastic in those videos, more than you've ever been with me." The words cut deep because they touched on a truth I'd never wanted to acknowledge. With Jace, everything had been a performance, even my enthusiasm. Especially my enthusiasm. I'd learned to be what he wanted, because the alternative was losing him. With Tom, I could be myself. Quieter, less theatrical, real. But how do you explain that to a man who's just seen what he thinks is his wife in ecstasy with another man? That wasn't real, I said. That was me trying to be what he wanted. And what am I, the safe choice? The boring husband you settled for? No, Tom, you're everything. Don't. He rolled away from me. Don't lie to me anymore. Tom used to hug me spontaneously, a quick squeeze as he passed me in the kitchen. Now his hand hovers mid-air, uncertain, before he pulls away and pretends he was reaching for something else. Each withdrawn gesture feels like losing him piece by piece. Yesterday, Emma ran to show him her science project, and I caught the way he flinched when she said, "Mom helped me with it," as if my involvement tainted even our daughter's achievements. Last night I saw him lingering by Jacob's crib, gently touching his sleeping son's cheek. His face was soft, unguarded, raw. A fleeting glimpse of a man terrified of losing the family he'd poured his heart into. I caught him staring into the mirror yesterday, adjusting his shirt, smoothing his hair as if trying to see himself differently, as if trying to understand what I once saw in Jace that I don't see in him. Each hesitant glance was a knife in my chest. This man who never cared about his appearance beyond basic hygiene was now scrutinizing himself, measuring himself against a ghost he'd never met until he pressed play on those videos. "I'm trying," he said one night after a particularly awkward encounter, "but I can't get the images out of my head. I can't stop seeing you with him." "That wasn't me," I insisted. "That was someone else, someone I'm not anymore." "But it was you, and you kept the evidence." We started couples therapy. Dr. Martinez was kind but direct, pushing us both to examine why this discovery had been so devastating. Tom admitted he'd always felt like the safe choice, like I'd settled for him after my wild years. The videos confirmed his worst fears, that he was boring, predictable, that I secretly longed for the excitement I'd had with Jace. "Is that true?" Dr. Martinez asked me. "Do you miss that excitement?" "No," I said automatically, then forced myself to be honest. "Sometimes, not Jace specifically, but the feeling of being desired like that, the intensity, but that's not love. What Tom and I have is love." "Then why keep the videos?" I'd been asking myself the same question for weeks. The answer, when it finally came, was harder to admit than the affair would have been. Because some part of me needed to know that girl existed, that I was once someone who could inspire that kind of passion. Being a mom, a wife, working at the dental office. Sometimes I feel invisible. Those videos were proof that I wasn't always invisible. The shame burning my face now isn't new. It's the same shame I felt back then, the shame that followed every yes I gave Jace out of fear. Except this time, it isn't Jace's rejection I fear. It's Tom's, the man who saw strength in me when I couldn't see it in myself. Tom's face crumbled. "You're not invisible to me. You've never been invisible to me." "I know," I said, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. "But knowing and feeling are different things." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "Tom, what did you see when you watched those videos?" Tom was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. When he did, his voice was broken. "I saw my wife being someone completely different, doing things she told me she'd never do. Being louder, more enthusiastic, more everything than she's ever been with me. I saw her looking at him the way I thought she only looked at me. And I heard her tell him she loved him." That last part was news to me. I didn't remember saying that, but then again, I'd blocked out so much of that time. Had I told Jace I loved him on camera? Had Tom heard me say words to another man that I now said to him? We're still in therapy, still trying to rebuild what my thoughtlessness destroyed. Tom's working on his insecurity, his fear that he'll never be enough for me. I'm working on being present in our life instead of holding on to ghosts from the past. We're both working on trust. Him trusting that he's what I want, me trusting that I deserve the quiet, steady love he offers. The videos are gone now, permanently deleted along with that entire email account. But the damage lingers. Every time Tom looks at me, I wonder if he's seeing his wife or the girl in those videos. Every time we're intimate, I wonder if he's comparing himself to Jace, if he's wondering what I'm not doing with him that I did on camera 10 years ago. The truth is, the sex with Jace wasn't better. It was performative, designed for the camera and his ego rather than my pleasure. With Tom, it's real, connected, about us rather than proving something. But try explaining that to a man who's just watched his wife with someone else. Last week was our anniversary. Tom made reservations at our favorite restaurant, arranged for his mom to watch the kids overnight. He was trying so hard to make things normal, to show me he was moving past it. But over dessert, he asked the question I'd been dreading. Were there others? Other videos? Other men like Jace? No, I said firmly. Just him. And I wish to God there hadn't been him. Do you, though? Or do you wish you'd just deleted the evidence? It was a fair question. Did I regret being with Jace? Or did I just regret the consequences of Tom finding out? The answer was both. I regretted letting Jace control me, film me, turn me into someone I didn't recognize. But I also couldn't regret the lessons that relationship taught me, about what I did and didn't want, about the difference between intensity and love, about the kind of partner I actually needed. I saw him last month, Tom said suddenly, pushing a piece of tiramisu around his plate. The clink of his fork against the ceramic was the only sound. Jace. My blood ran cold. The air in the fancy restaurant suddenly felt thin. What? I looked him up, a pathetic bit of late-night cyberstalking. He let out a short, bitter laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Found him on Facebook. He's playing dive bars in Tucson now. Looks like hell, thinning hair, beer gut. Posted a lot of grainy photos from his glory days when he had his muse. Tom finally looked up from his dessert, and the word hung in the air between us, dripping with sarcasm. That's what he called you in the comments. His muse, like you were a thing, not a person, an object that inspired his mediocre art. Tom, why would you... Because I needed to see him, to understand what you saw in him. And you know what? I don't get it. He's nothing special. Just another aging wannabe rock star clinging to the past. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. Is that what you're doing? Clinging to the past? I regret hurting you, I said finally. I regret being careless with something that could cause you pain. I regret not being brave enough to tell you about that part of my life so you could decide if you wanted to be with me knowing everything. I would have, Tom said quietly. I would have chosen you anyway. It's the lying that hurts, the keeping secrets. I wasn't lying, I genuinely forgot. You forgot about sex tapes. How does anyone forget about sex tapes, Lauren? The question used to make me defensive. Now it just makes me sad. It wasn't forgetting, Tom, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It was an amputation. When I left him, I cut off that entire part of my life. I cauterized the wound and pretended the limb was never there. The videos, they were in the amputated part. I didn't forget them. I cut them away from who I am now. I just never thought the ghost limb would come back to haunt us. We go around in circles like this. Him unable to believe I could forget something so significant. Me trying to explain how desperately I'd wanted to forget that entire year of my life. The girl in those videos feels like a stranger to me now. Someone weak. Someone who needed external validation so badly she'd do anything to get it. But to Tom, she's not a stranger. She's his wife. Just with another man. Our daughter Emma asked me last week why Daddy seemed sad. She's only 7, but she notices everything, just like her father. Sometimes grown-ups get sad, I told her, but Daddy loves us very much. Did you do something wrong? She asked with the brutal honesty of children. Yes, I admitted. I made a mistake and hurt Daddy's feelings, but we're working on fixing it. You should say sorry. I have, baby. Sometimes sorry isn't enough. Sometimes you have to show people you're sorry through your actions. But what actions can undo this? How do I prove to Tom that he's enough, has always been enough, will always be enough? How do I convince him that the girl in those videos was lost and broken, while the woman he married is whole because of his love? I've started writing him letters, leaving them on his pillow each morning. Not long, dramatic declarations. Just simple reminders of why I chose him, why I continue to choose him every day. How he makes me laugh when he does voices for the kids' bedtime stories. How attractive I find his dedication to our family. How his steady presence makes me feel safe in a way Jace's chaos never did. I don't need you to be him, I wrote this morning. I need you to be you. I've always needed you to be you. He hasn't mentioned the letters, but I've caught him reading them, folding them carefully and putting them in his nightstand drawer. It's a small thing, but it gives me hope. The girls' weekend that started all this feels like a lifetime ago. Beth still texts, asking if I'm okay, if Tom and I are working things out. I don't know how to answer. We're trying. We're in therapy. We're still married, but are we okay? I don't know if we'll ever be okay in the same way again. Yesterday, I found Tom in the garage, going through old photos of us. Our wedding album was open to the page where I'm looking at him during our first dance, completely absorbed in his face. You never looked at him like that, he said without turning around. In the videos, you never looked at him the way you're looking at me here. Because I never loved him the way I love you. Then why did you say it? Why did you tell him you loved him? Because he needed to hear it. Because if I didn't say it, he'd punish me by withdrawing, by finding someone else who would say it. I said what I had to say to survive that relationship. Tom turned to face me then, and I saw he'd been crying. Do you say what you need to say to survive this relationship too? The question destroyed me. Because how could I make him believe that every word I said to him was real when he'd seen me perform for someone else? How could I convince him that the theatrical girl in those videos was the act, and the quiet woman who loved him was the truth? Trust, once broken, is like a vase that's been shattered. You can glue it back together, but the cracks always show. Every time Tom works late, I wonder if he's really working or if he's creating distance. Every time I'm quiet, he wonders if I'm thinking about Jace. We're hyper-aware of each other in a way that's exhausting. But we're still here, still trying, still choosing each other even when it's hard. Because what we have, the life we've built, the family we've created, the quiet love that sustains us, is worth fighting for. It's worth more than any intensity, any passion, any stupid videos from a decade ago. I just hope Tom can see that too. I hope he can look at me again without seeing her, the girl who did those things on camera. I hope he can trust that when I say he's everything I want, I mean it. I hope we can find our way back to each other, even if the path is different than the one we were on before. The videos are gone, but their shadow remains. All I can do is try to step out of that shadow and into the light of the life we've built together. All I can do is prove day by day that the woman he married is the real me. And the girl in those videos was just someone I used to be. Someone I never want to be again. This morning, Tom left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. His email was up and I saw a message from a divorce attorney. Re-initial consultation, the subject line read. My heart stopped. I didn't read it. I've invaded his privacy enough for one lifetime. But seeing those words made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. He's thinking about leaving me. My safe, steady, loving husband is considering walking away from our life because I carelessly kept evidence of a past I claimed to have forgotten. And the worst part? I can't blame him. How can he trust me when I kept such a huge secret, even from myself? How can he believe I love him when he's seen me perform love for someone else? Tonight, after the kids are asleep, I'll ask him about the lawyer. I'll tell him I understand if he needs to leave, but I'll fight for us until he tells me to stop. Because Tom is worth fighting for in a way Jace never was. Tom is real love, not performed passion. Tom is choosing to build a life together, not demanding I prove my worth. I've let the ghost of my younger self haunt my marriage for too long. Whatever happens next, whether Tom forgives me or decides he can't, I refuse to be a passive spectator to my own life. The past is dead, and it's time I buried it for good. I know we might never fully erase the cracks we've made, but maybe we can build something new from them. Something stronger. Something true. Something that belongs to us alone. Not haunted by who we used to be, but built on who we choose to become. I just pray it's not too late for him to see that too.